Welcome back to Boys and Ghouls Film Review, folks. I'm your host, Sarah Stephenson. This is my co-host, Mike Stephenson.
Hi, guys.
So tonight we are going to review another movie that was considered a classic called Faces of Dr. Lao, which was released in 1964, I think.
Yeah, 64. Now, this here is here we go. It's a Western fantasy comedy. Now, when I first saw it a long time ago, I thought it was a Disney movie because it had a Disney feel to it. Okay. But it wasn't.
No.
Because it was produced by a guy called George Powell. George Powell also directed. This is his final movie he directed. I'll talk about it a bit later on.
Yeah, go ahead.
Screenplay was by Charles Beaumont and Ben Heck, and it was based on a novel, The Circus of Dr. Lao, which was a 1935 novel story, whatever, by Charles Finney.
Right.
Now, I do not know what the budget was. Box office about 1.25 mil. It was probably one of the only flops or bad performing movies that George Powell ever had. But I do believe it did pick up on the home media and syndication through TVs and stuff.
Anyway, Mike, before we get on to it, go further into this, I also seen it when I was a little kid too, and it did creep me out in parts, obviously. While you may have seen it, Mike, and you thought it was groovy, I was creeped out, and it took me a while to get over the heebie-jeebies of this production. And now that I've gotten older, I think it's a pretty cool movie to watch. But I would not recommend it to a younger audience, not unless they're ready for it.
It's not really that bad. You just sort of,
It was creepy.
A little bit creepy here and there, but it's a good fun family movie.
It's a fun kind of one that has a few laughs in it, which is even more good in this movie because it does give you a lot to think about, and it has its moments when in this production, and I think was it a famous reviewer or host was on the one we had, I think, at one point. A famous one of those special MGM type hosts who would often introduce the movies and say, "Oh, how wonderful this movie is! Oh, and the special effects, yada yada."
Blah, blah,
I remember in our one,
sometimes on TV you get a movie host, not a horror host, a real movie host, and they'd actually introduce the movie and say it was a good movie and why it was a good movie and yada yada yada. So blah blah blah.
Yeah. Anyway,
now, actually, before I'll do my little bit and then get into the story. Yeah. Now, I would have done this at the end, but for those younger people out there who may not know who George Powell is, you might know some of the movies. George Powell. I don't know the first movie. It's called The Great Rupert. I think it's a comedy. Now, that was in 1950. Now, in 1950 also he did Destination Moon, which is an old sci-fi. And then he did, in 1951, When Worlds Collide. And that's one of Sarah's and mine favourite movies for that period. There's a movie with Tony Curtis in it done in 1953 called Houdini.
Oh, I know that one. That one has Tony Curtis and his wife, Janet Leigh.
Who played his wife in the movie. Blah, blah.
Then
The War of the Worlds was done the same year. That's one of Gene Barry in it. 1954, he did The Naked Jungle with Charlton Heston in it. 1955 was another sci-fi called The Conquest of Space. And it was a fancy movie done in 1958 called Tom Thumb. Then here we go.
I think I heard of that one.
1960, The Time Machine with Rod Taylor. 1961, Atlantis, The Lost Continent. I know all these movies. I saw them as a kid. There's one in 1962, The Wonderful World of the Brothers Grimm. I don't know that one.
Me neither.
1964, Faces of Dr. Lao. 1968, The Power. And 1975, Doc Savage, The Man of Bronze. That sounds like a sci-fi. I don't know those last two.
Yeah.
But anyway, but at least 2/3 to 3/4 of those are well-known movies. So George Powell was a pretty good all-round producer-director.
Yeah, well, I did like the fact that he I like the fact that he did okay with Houdini. He got along with Tony Curtis and Janet Leigh. Reed, obviously. The married couple. I don't know what happened to their marriage. Obviously, doesn't matter.
They had a baby.
Yeah, they did.
And who was she?
Jamie Lee Curtis.
A
Halloween
Scream
woman,
Queen.
that we're all familiar with.
And she's still chasing, what's his name? Michael
Well,
Myers. Yeah.
last time I heard, she hacked him up to pieces, and
we hope so.
And he's in he's somewhere in the middle, being crushed to death.
Somewhere. We would like to think that.
And there's an end to his story.
Anyway.
So,
now, some of the players.
The plot is interesting.
The plot thickens, whatever. Now.
Time to get stuck into
this. Is a bit weird.
Interesting, too.
A guy called Tony Randall. And he was in a lot of movies, comedies and stuff way back when. And he was part of the MGM production company, studios. Yeah. And he was not the first choice for this role, but MGM said, well, he's on our books, we're going to use him for the role. And I can't think of anybody else who would have done a better job. Even they considered Peter Sellers and other people, but when you see Tony Randall playing this role, I'd say these roles, plural, because he played multiple roles. Here we go. Tony Randall, he plays Dr. Lao, the mysterious visitor from China. He plays Merlin the magician. He plays Pan, the god of joy. He does the voice of a serpent. He's dressed up as a female and does Medusa. He plays Apollonius of Tyana, who's a blind fortune teller. He's also dressed up as the abominable snowman. And to cap it off, during one of the circus performances, he's sitting in the audience watching it.
Yeah, so and he, unlike the rest of the people who are acting cheerful and clapping, he's the only one that looks like he's the least impressed about it.
This is rubbish, man. Yeah,
I would be surprised that was George's idea, thinking...
he had a good sense of humour,
yeah,
I think, George.
And I think they probably added him in there just as a bit of a... sort of an Easter egg.
Yeah, now, here we are. I'm not going to list everybody because some of these are main actors, some are just bit actors. But Arthur O'Connell, he plays Clint Stark, a ruthless... farmer come tycoon guy trying to buy out the town for one reason or another. Main love interest, male, John Erickson. He plays a crusading publisher, and he also publisher of the local newspaper. And he also plays Pan when he transforms from Tony Randall into the love interest of the next person. Barbara Eden is the next person.
You know her, the Adrian Magini.
Yeah. And she's actually in The Voyage Beyond the Sea, which is the one of Wall Pigeon, the real movie. Yeah.
Okay.
Now she plays Angela Benedict, the widowed librarian lady, who's being sought after by John Erickson. He plays role Ed Cunningham. And Cunningham is after her, and she's being very aloof. Hard to get.
Yeah, exactly so.
Now, a young boy called Kevin Tate plays her son. He's not too bad. Now, Noah Beery Jr. plays Sam, the loyal pressman who works with Ed Cunningham. I won't go for all the other people because
most
they're
of them
actors.
Most of them are just small segment pieces.
You know most of these people. So they're shown in other movies and everything. So, and they really work well together. And Barbara Eden looks great with clothes on or clothes off. So it doesn't really matter. Well, Jeannie's didn't wear much.
Yeah, technically, there were some interesting subjects about her, but about I Dream of Jeannie, but I won't bring them up in this one.
Yeah, no, she's a very lovely lady. I like
especially when it came to her outfit in Dream of Jeannie, where she was told not to show her navel. Gosh knows why. It's a weird rule.
Back in those days, they were a bit more... everyone's got one.
Yeah, everyone has it.
And you can't show your navel. Well, how to get around it?
Good point.
I don't know.
I remember years ago, my mum would often tell me to level my jeans up to my navel.
Well, yeah. Well, I don't know why.
I don't know why.
I can't get my pants up over my tummy to get up to my navel now. I'm built like Pac-Man, so my pants fall down just above my you-know-what. Anyway,
Yeah. So, anyway, I'll dive into the story.
Yeah, splash. Okay.
So the story begins where a Chinaman on a donkey is heading towards a small town that's in the middle of a big issue at the moment, where the Mr. Stark plans on buying out the town in order to make a big profit.
I see. He is the only one who knows, for some sort of reason, that the railway is planned to go in that general direction. It is going to become a rail town, and he's going to make a lot of money out of it. If he buys all the property up, he can sell it back to the railway for where they go to lay the tracks down, and it can also be a whistle stop.
Yeah.
And that
which
sort
means
of stuff,
work and jobs
and stuff, and he can sell all the stuff, all leases back, and you know the drill.
But we'll get to that part later on. So the story, Dr. Lao appears and comes down the hill, and he is noticed by a few locals.
No, wait. He's riding on a little donkey all by himself, with nothing else.
With only a little fish on it.
A little fish bowl. And maybe a little sack of, what you might have bedding in it, maybe change of clothes. Nothing else, right?
Right. Anyway, so he soon arrives to the town. Some people look at him and think it's strange to see such a outsider.
Chinaman in the middle of the Old West?
Yeah. Anyway, he eventually goes to the printer place where Ed Cunningham works in as the chief
owner
and
whatever.
chief journalist, I think.
Everything.
Yeah, he's the jack of all trades in this production. Well, not really in this production. Anyway, so he also coming to the printer place, as he's waiting to get his stuff printed. Stark arrives there, and he is really he frets the young journalist because he dislikes the article he wrote about him.
Yeah, he's saying what a nasty little dude he was, trying to be subversive and nasty to the people they're trying
to get them to sell out.
Ed Cunningham doesn't know what's really going on totally, but he doesn't like what this guy's doing to the town.
Yeah, and he tells him, "You're a city boy. Why do you care about such a small town? Blah blah blah."
Yeah, it's not your town. You weren't born here. You've only been here for 12 months. Bugger off.
Yeah. But somehow
nice.
Ed seems to care about the locals, and he wants to do what he can to help them.
Exactly.
And that's why Dr. Lao is there to try to help them. So, anyway, after Stark leaves, he approaches the young journalist, and he tells him about how he wants to print off some advertisements for his upcoming circus.
An ad in paper.
Yeah, an ad for a paper. Big page.
Yeah, full-page spread. Dr. Lao, wonderful circus.
And of course...
2 nights only.
Yeah, 2 nights only. So he's told the amount of money, and of course he has a lot of spare change in his pockets.
Different currencies.
Different
countries.
Different countries. But soon enough, he finds the currency he needs. And soon enough... he zaps the printer back into order because he kind of stopped it so he can get his word across to them. Because it's very noisy, and it's unlike the printers we have nowadays where they don't sound too noisy.
The old type of printers. You just get on with it.
Yes. Soon he also tells Ed about what part of China he came from, and this one is a very particular part of China that has not been around for, say, centuries or years. Anyway, but Ed goes to the library where his love interest, Angela, is working in, and she gives him the rush off as much as she can, telling him I'm not interested in you.
No matter how much he flirts.
Yes. She also tells this to her mother-in-law and tells her that she's not interested, and she'd rather live as a widow and she loves her ex-husband who died many years ago.
But the mother-in-law's encouraging her to get her life back together again, and she thinks Ed Cunningham is a good deal.
Yeah, she likes him, and same could be said for her young son Mike, who likes.
What a great
him.
name!
Yeah.
Oh, that's
you would say so, Mike.
Okay.
Anyway, they soon later on go to a meeting that with Stark, who about the part I mentioned about where they're trying to work out whether to sell up their place or keep the place.
So
property.
he lays down this lie about well, our water supply comes from so many miles away, and we've got an old pipe there which needs to be replaced real soon, and it's going to cost so many $100,000, and you guys really can't afford it. And for what? A dust bowl nobody really wants? You might as well, I'll pay you to leave, and because I'm a philanthropist, I'm a really nice guy.
Bullshit.
Yeah. And,
anyway.
And that's where he's putting over, and people are going, well, good deal.
Yeah. Of course, Ed comes up with telling him that he has a friend who's an Indian who probably knows a little bit more about another water source that might be of help to the town if it does come to the fact that they may need to find another water source. Of course, they decide. One of the guys says, "How long do we have to, decide on your deal?" And to say a couple of days, obviously. So their next meeting, which whenever it will be,
about a week's time, or several days' time, anyway.
Yeah. So anyway, they decide to disperse, and their Stark's minions or thugs, I'm going to call them thugs.
This minion sounds nice.
Well, they try to beat up the poor Indian, but luckily enough, Dr. Lao appears, and he uses his magic to freeze them and tells.
And they walk off.
Yeah, and he didn't freeze them for long. Just a few seconds of just funny bits, obviously funny. Anyway, soon enough, the advertisement goes out, and everyone is excited about the circus. Everyone's in deep discussion about it, and of course, Ed goes down to the actual circus place itself. It is occupied by, a abominable snowman and the Merlin magician guy. Of course. He meets Merlin, obviously, and he tries to give him uses magic to give him some money.
He doesn't. He said, "What do you want? What do you desire?" And he got his notebook out and took several pages out of his book. He held it in his hand and said, "Hey, presto!" and it turned into money.
Yeah, of course.
And he thinks it's a bribe.
Yeah, he thinks it's a bribe, and he soon enough Merlin disappears, and then Dr. Lao appears and tells him that his circus isn't. At first, Ed says, "Well, okay, what's the gimmick? Because I don't see any animals. No, just a weird magician and a weird abominable snowman in a suit, stuff like that." He doesn't believe. He's trying to figure out what's his game.
What's his angle? Yeah.
And of course, Dr. Lao says he's just there to try to help, and he says that he knows deep down that he fears for his town's survival, and that he's just gonna.
Dr. Lao knows he's a good guy.
Yeah, and he knows that he thinks he doesn't trust him and stuff like that. But he says, "Don't worry, things will work out and stuff like that." And he says, "Just trust me as a friend and stuff like that." So Ed is left with feeling a little bit more light.
Actually, Dr. Lao says, didn't he say something earlier on where he came from?
Yeah, he also asks him about where he came from, and he says the place is it's non-existent.
That died so many centuries ago or something or other,
so he sets his mind at ease, saying he's not a swindler or anything like that. He just is there trying to help them, and hopefully it will benefit the town. Hopefully. So anyway, Ed heads off, and Dr. Lao actually meets young Mike, and he befriends the little boy, and Mike tells him that he wants to. I think he kind of likes Dr. Lao's magic tricks.
He wants to be part of his magic show and get a job there. What kid wouldn't?
Yeah. Anyway, soon enough, the circus begins. There is a lot of excitement, and soon enough, we get a glimmer of the magical people we experience.
Yeah, to me it's more like a carnival. We've got the sideshow type things. You go in little parts where you go in to see a fortune teller and you get to see a display of a serpent guy and different things.
Yeah.
So, to me it's more of a carnival and circus, but it's a bit of a mix, maybe.
Yeah. So, anyway, one of the ladies there, she actually goes to the fortune teller who reveals the future in the most very serious, truthful, to a T.
She's waited too long, she's an old lady, and she still thinks she's still acting like a young girl.
Yeah.
And he pretty much says,
sums it up to her.
Yeah, nobody likes an empty-headed idiot. Things aren't going to get any better. You're not going to get married. You're going to die a lonely old woman, and you'll be broke.
Yeah, because she bought a land that won't strike. There's no oil on it, which means she wasted the money she had and stuff like that. And when she hears all this, she comes out of the tent and she cries and she tells Angela not to go in there and tries to make up an excuse that tells her a bunch of lies, saying that she's going to be rich and marry Stark. Because I think she also has crushes on all the old men in the town, obviously, but none of them have bothered to.
She's an airhead.
She's an airhead, obviously, and they see her as an airhead. There's no point in negotiating about that. Anyway, then Angela heads off, and she actually meets Pan, the part man, part goat.
God of love or something like that.
Something. He's a Set, I think he was. I think it is. A Satyr. Who is, according to
half man,
half goat, and they're usually a very sexual creatures.
God of joy or something. Yeah.
And he transforms into a love interest. Ed, obviously.
While he's there. He's playing his flute or whatever it is, and panpipes. All of a sudden he changes into the man she secretly desires. Yeah.
But she won't admit it to herself and to anyone around her.
Does her
heart rate go up?
And she starts to get hot and sweaty. And you know.
Yeah. Of course, he transforms back into his Pan appearance, and she runs off. Of course. Then we meet Stark, who goes to meet the giant serpent, where he sees himself in the serpent because he has the same features. I should say. And
the serpent has a moustache, just like he does,
and he starts talking to him, picking at all the things about him.
All his weaknesses.
All his weaknesses, like his eyesight.
He's wearing glasses and stuff, and the serpent doesn't wear glasses. And so you look, you think you're wonderful and strong and perfect. You put clothes on you to protect your body because you don't have good skin. You got bad eyes. You got this, that, and the other. Yeah. And he's picking him apart, and he's feeling so insecure by the time he walks out of the tent.
Yeah. Anyway, soon enough, we then head to meet Merlin, and everyone picks apart his magic. Even though I think the idea of a guinea pig instead of a rabbit out of the hat sounds just okay.
It's not an animal.
At least you
make flowers grow and different things.
Having a guinea pig you can take home with you. Unlike a rabbit, you cannot keep one in real life.
Well, not in Queensland you can't. They're against the law.
We have a bit of a law up here that we're not allowed to have one unless we have a license.
Cute little bunny.
Unless we're licensed by the government to have one.
Yeah, as a magician's pet or something.
Yeah, I heard this from a friend of mine who's a magician who told me that.
Yeah.
Anyway, so of course everyone picks apart his axe, and he tries his hardest with the flowers and turning water into booze.
Yeah, it's supposed to be champagne. This guy said, it tastes terrible. Well, yes, if you're used to drinking bourbon and stuff, you have a glass of champagne, it would taste a bit as your father. Yeah.
Yeah. Of course, Mike comforts the poor old magician and tells him he's the greatest magician in the world.
And he believes in him or something.
And the man embraces the boy, and then we cross over to the what do they call it, the sea monster creature, I think it was.
Moby Dick.
The small fish that's no bigger than
it's a little bit bigger than a goldfish. Yeah.
Anyway, so Dr. Lao tells them a
story
story about how these creatures, they live in certain lakes. Mike, maybe you could translate it for
all
me?
he said really was that, and when they're in the water, they're small, but when they get out of the water and dry off a little bit, they start increasing their size very rapidly. Yeah, they double their size every so many seconds. Mm-hmm. So that's the story why you can't find Loch Ness Monster and different things, because they're only tiny when they're wet.
Yeah.
And when they get dry, you go above water, they get bigger.
Yeah.
Good story, hey? I like it.
Yeah, sounds
Works
interesting.
For me.
Anyway, the two minions to Stark don't believe him and think that it's just a little measly little fishy and want to take it out of the water to see what happens. Of course, Stark orders them to lay off, go away.
Leave the fishy alone.
And of course the fish does a...
Farts.
I love that.
Yeah.
Anyway,
it does a couple of times, a bit of a running gag. Yeah,
we then meet Medusa, the
snake-headed lady.
Who I am impressed that this guy who's playing
Tony Randall.
I'm amazed he's able to pull off playing a woman.
Yeah,
in this
but he had basic slender features, so a bit of makeup, put a wig on him. Yeah, and the Medusa was not a beautiful lady.
Yeah, I know.
So, yeah,
I figured that, but you've got to admit the features do look very feminine-ish.
Well, just makeup does a lot. You know?
Anyway, while everyone is positioned by a mirror, they get to see Medusa because, of course, to avoid being transformed into statues and garden statues, this is a safe approach. Of course, one of the women in the crowd, who is a
really
nasty woman, questions Dr. Lao, saying that she doesn't like his thoughts on this Medusa crap and thinks that he's a charlatan and a fraud.
And she goes there, walks around the corner and looks at the Medusa straight in the eye, and guess what? She gets stoned. I mean, no, she turns to stone. Sorry.
Yeah.
There's a difference.
Everyone runs out scared.
Doesn't get fried.
And quickly her husband and two other men try to take her out, and Merlin appears and starts...
He makes
hocus pocus, change.
And she did change. She came back to normal.
And she was a lot more nicer.
And the nicer, because when he did the change spell, it changed her from a piece of stone into a human being, and made her stony mind into a nice, gentle mind. Isn't that lovely?
And then Dr. Lao appears and tells them about the show tomorrow night, obviously.
There's something special coming up.
And later on that night, he is feeding his cricket and not getting much success.
Jiminy Cricket wasn't eating his dinner.
And Mike appears, asking him if he wants a job working at the circus. Of course, Dr. Lao says no. And of course, but he shows him a few tricks, like a little juggling, a little bit of conjuring, sleight of hand. Of course, he says, "You're very good," and he says, "You'll make Merlin very sad." And Mike feels a little sad that he's not going to be part of this. Then Dr. Lao says that the whole world is a circus. Every time you every time the sun rises and sets, you
pick up a handful of dust and you see more than just the dust. And it's true. Yeah, the world is like a circus. I'm surrounded by a bunch of clowns just about every time I go out.
Yeah, but I think the point is that every day is a miracle. You may not believe it, guys, but the sun rising and setting all the time is a miracle. It's amazing that such a thing is happening even now as we speak.
Sunrise, sunset.
Anyway, after this, Mike still doesn't understand, but then they decide to dance and have a good few moments. Yeah. Meanwhile, while this is happening, Ed's printer is trashed by no thanks to Stark's minions.
Yeah, when they're at the circus that night, the henchmen, minions broke into the newspaper and broke the printing press.
And broke his typewriter. Nasty.
So when Ed goes back there at night time and walks past his office, he notices the place has been trashed. Yeah. It's all broken. Yeah. And he goes to the local bar and gets...
drunk.
Roaring drunk. He has a few drinks and moans and groans.
Well,
But wait a minute, what happened in the morning?
Oh, before we get to that. Later on, Angela, she has here's some music from Pan's.
Nobody else can hear it though.
And of course she's throughout the scene she continues hearing the music and feeling like she's in heat. And then soon enough her mother appears, telling her, "What's the buzz?" She says it's only that creepy music. Yeah.
See, what music?
What music? She doesn't understand, of course. And the music continues, and we don't know how long this is going to go for. It doesn't matter at this point. It's not important. Soon enough, the next morning, the printer and the printer place is all back to normal. Like
magic.
Ooh. And then the staff man asks Ed, "Do you think this is the Chinaman's doing?" He says, "Who else?"
Let's get to work.
Yeah, so they sober up, get water thrown them in the face because they've been probably drinking all night and have not slept anywhere. And soon enough, he actually goes to Stark on his motorized bike. I'm going to say...
Actually, this is quite funny.
It is funny, isn't
back in those days, bicycles were a reasonably new invention.
Yes.
And the internal combustion engine had recently been developed and they had the old cars there. But this motorbike, this bicycle had a motor on it. And I thought to myself, the first motorised bicycles like this...
Yes.
were the forerunner to the motorbikes that we have known and loved for many decades now. Mm-hmm. And what do we have in the streets now? We have motorised bicycles and motorised scooters, but some of them still run on petrol motors, but some are actually using electric motors now. So we've gone full circle, folks, haven't we?
No surprise. I would have thought such technology like that, motorised bicycle that Ed had, it was like I never saw anything like it.
Well, actually, something you didn't know. Back in, I think it's the late 60s, early 70s, people had skateboards. All right?
Right.
And they had little motors on the skateboards too, so you can actually stand on it or sit on it and it just go by itself.
Cool.
Yeah.
Anyway, Ed gives Stark his latest newspaper, and I guess he heard from his minions that they trashed his...
It sent him a message saying why he won't be put out of business, pretty much.
Yeah. Then Ed actually meets up with Dr. Lao, who is fishing in an empty pond.
Well, creek, stream.
Yeah.
It doesn't have no water in it. Yeah. So
that's
still the fishies.
That's okay. We don't have bait. Sorry.
Yeah, we're not using bait yet.
Sorry, guys. I didn't want to be offensive to people.
Not using bait.
That's the terms they were using.
Yeah.
Anyway, he actually says thank you to him because he appreciates what he did, and gives him a newspaper. And of course, he tells him, "Do not disturb me. I happen to be fishing." And while this is happening, Ed's staff member approaches him, telling him that tonight they're going to be voting on the results of the town, meaning that it's going to happen sooner than they think. So it's not just going to be a couple of days. It's going to be happening this very evening. So, but anyway, moving on. Later that night, as the final preparations for the circus appear, it comes on, and soon enough Angela approaches Ed, and they act like Ed actually talks to her like as if they were meeting for the first time.
Flirting, but being funny about it.
Yeah, of course. He discusses how much she resembles a beautiful woman he likes and crushes on, and he knows this will probably be the last days of the town being together. So this is their chance of finally having a bit of a date. So they introduced each other saying, "My name's Ed and my name's Angela," and they use their first
name. They walk in together. Were they hand in hand or anything?
More like arm in arm, if that's the word.
Yeah.
Anyway, soon enough they head inside, and there's a big stage set. I mean, not stage. I mean, where all the seats are arranged, and everyone is sitting down in them, and Dr. Lao is presenting popcorn, peanuts, and whatnot. And soon enough, they do a bit of a parade where all the creatures from the circus start doing a parade around the tent. And of course, before I get to that, I think Stark also visits the fortune teller, who asks and who informs him about how Stark used to be a nice person once upon a time when he was younger, right, Mike?
Exactly. And he became jaded and...
Yeah. And he tells him about the railway that's going to be coming through there in the future.
How do you know about that? He's a soothsayer. He's a fortune teller.
He then goes on and he pays the man and tells him, "Will I win?" And he says, "Yes."
And he gets it smart, but he didn't understand what he really meant. He thought, I'm going to win. I'm going to get the town.
Yeah. Anyway, then that's when after everyone seats into their seats, then Dr. Lao starts sort of movie projector. I don't know if
he starts telling a story.
He tells a story about a special area that disappeared many years ago. There's no records and there's no historic stuff about it. He calls it the fall of the city. Anyway, so he starts the story off. It goes all dark, and this interesting movie. A screen appears.
It's called Magic Lantern, but it's like a movie projector. But the thing is, all the people in it are likenesses of the people in the audience.
He goes on to explain how this little small community was very happy, and they were thankful to the god, and they lived a very comfortable existence. And then a stranger appears in funny clothing who express that you guys are happy, but would you like to be rich and wealthy? And he presents them with coins, and they start listening to him and start not listening to their god. And then God tells them that he'll punish them. And the biggest plague that he could think of was oblivion. So that kind of destroyed their community, their town. All the while they're watching this on the screen, the people in the tent start feeling a huge amount of guilt.
Of course, they could see themselves in the same predicament.
Yeah, and I think Stark sees himself in the mysterious stranger.
As a nasty dude, yeah.
Yeah, I think he's the devil.
But the funny part is, what happened now?
Oh, as the tent goes dark and everyone's bowing their heads, because of feeling a bit remorse for what happened in the story. They open their eyes, and we see they're inside the meeting hall. And then the mayor of the town, he approaches the table and tells the audience to vote and to always let their conscience be their guide, obviously. So to let their conscience guide them. And so everyone decides to vote for keeping their town and stuff like that.
Yeah, they didn't want to go the same way as that other little town did. Yeah.
Anyway, and this and Stark approaches the table and tells them that, okay, I've lost, but it's the loss I've been wanting all my life. And he tells them about the railway coming through, which will mean work and money and honest money, obviously, not the money like buying them out type of money. So, in the end, Stark won, but not in an innocent type of victory. Anyway,
so he did win, didn't he?
He did win, but he also thanks Dr. Lao and Ed for sort of changing his mind. And then as they're leaving, there's a dust storm coming up.
Yeah, a dust storm came up. All of a sudden.
Where all of the occupants inside the hall, they head out and try to prepare for the storm, obviously.
And go home and batten the hatches and stuff,
Ed actually goes to Angela's house, and she expresses her love, and there they kiss. While her mother-in-law appears, and she smiles and disappears again. I don't know what happens next, but it's because the dust storm goes on.
It's a family movie, so thank you very much.
Okay. Soon enough, the Stark's minions, they're in the bar and they're drunk, I think.
And they're upset that the boss has changed his tune.
Yeah, they think it's all because of that.
Little Chinaman.
Fault. And they think that the whole town is hypnotized by him. I don't know. I think they're just talking rubbish at this point.
They are. They're full of crap. Yeah.
Anyway, they think that they want to go to the tent and try trash it.
And they do.
So they head on their horses and head down to there, noticing the tent has not fallen over or anything like that because of, well, the magic, I guess, that Dr. Lao is holding it up, of course. Anyway, so these guys head inside the tent and start tearing at the canvas
and knocking the poles over and stuff. They see a little fishy.
Yeah. And they kind of take out their guns and shoot the
goldfish ball.
And as they're about to
move.
step on the fish, it starts growing
really
quickly. And they start shooting at it, but you might as well be shooting at through a Play-Doh. Anyway,
Polly was made out of Play-Doh. No.
Oh, I should mention Mike, the little boy. He actually sees.
He's there too. He's stuck up
sees
there.
them there, and he goes to Dr. Lau's. What does it get? What do they call it? A caravan.
Oh, those like the gypsies go in. You have the little wagon.
And he tells Dr. Lao that they released the little Loch-Ness monster.
Ooh, not good.
Yeah,
Ooh.
He takes out a special device.
A rain-making device.
And they quickly follow the creature out. Of course, the creature is taunting the two thugs.
It's starting to rival Godzilla. Yeah, it's getting big by now.
And then it starts growing multiple heads, like, I don't know what those Greek mythology creatures.
The seven-headed Hydra.
Yeah.
Yes. In Greek mythology.
Yeah.
Greek mythology.
Yeah, that's it I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
Anyway, it starts sprouting its heads and starts resembling the creatures from the Dr. Lao,
the Abominable Snowman, Medusa.
And they continue running. At this point, I think they're probably never going to stop running until I don't know.
They got the runs. Huh? Okay.
Anyway, Dr. Lao starts setting up the rain-making machine in the ground, and as he's getting it ready, he suddenly gets picked up by the creature, and it takes Mike to light it with the Dr. Lau's pipe. And soon enough,
off like firecrackers or skyrockets.
Yeah.
And
it starts shrinking the creature down.
It starts raining, and the rain starts. Yeah.
Yeah, and of course, Dr. Lao picks it up. The little creature now has gone down to a teeny pint size again. And he approaches Mike and says, "Okay, that's show business."
Yes.
Later on, the next day, Angela, Ed, and Stark and Mike, they appear back at where Dr. Lau's tent was. Of course, it's gone, and along with everyone.
Everything's gone.
And Mike tells them about how he saw the creature and how his Stark recognizes a hat that was left by one of his minions and knew they were there, obviously.
And ran away, yeah.
Of course, Mike notices a bit of a dust storm.
A little dust storm, a little woolly again.
Yeah, and starts chasing after it.
He believes it's Dr. Lao leaving, yes.
Yeah, he keeps begging Dr. Lao not to leave and stuff like that. But soon enough, the dust storm settles, and he spots some golden balls.
The juggling type balls, yeah.
Yeah, and he starts juggling them, and he yells out to Dr. Lao that he can do it, because before he could not do it.
If he couldn't do it properly, yeah.
And then we see in the distance Dr. Lao on his donkey with the goldfish in the goldfish ball.
And the voiceover was what he said about the world
is a
circus and yada yada yada. It's full of magic and stuff, and then you go to the credits and that sort of stuff.
Yeah,
really
he
good.
waves goodbye to Mike, and I think at this point they can't see Dr. Lao because I think he's there, but he's not. He was not there, and I think Angela, she heard Pang's music in the air, and she says, "I wonder if he was here." And Ed says, "I wonder where he's going." And Stark says, "I don't know. I wonder if he's up here at all."
Well, whatever. Yeah,
I think.
Oh yeah, was he here? Yes. No. Maybe. Yeah.
Anyway, so then the movie ends. Obviously, there's no credits at this point. It just fades out, like in most of these movies.
Okay. All right. We're already up to about 45 minutes almost.
Yes.
So I'm going to whiz through a few things here right now. Okay.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. Right. Okay. Okay. The film rights were bought by George Powell in about 1961.
Right.
Okay. And he's got Charles Beaumont to write the script. He said he's as kooky as me, so it should be a good script. So, yeah. Anyway, they had an idea that a guy called Lawrence Harvey was going to be playing in the movie. He was a good-looking guy back in his day, I think. And also Terry Thomas. And Rod Taylor was considered to be for one of the roles in it.
Yeah.
Now, what happened is it came along there. Peter Sellers was possibly going to play Dr. Lao.
I could believe you. Considering Peter
He
Sellers,
does different roles.
he does many
roles,
multiple roles. He's just as dedicated in his profession as everyone.
But like I said before, MGM had Tony Randall on payroll in the stable, and he was going to be a lot cheaper to use. So they chose Tony Randall. There you go. Which was fair enough, you know. But it says here now he was they wanted to use him because he was $50,000 cheaper. So he wasn't back in those days. That's a lot of money. You wonder how much money Tony Randall got for playing the role. Interesting. Don't know.
And who knows what Peter Sellers would probably.
No, the point is, it's $50,000 cheaper. Was he only getting $100,000, $200,000? I don't know. You got to get a lot of money for it.
But then again, this is multiple roles. You know,
Yes,
even though Dr. Lao has more of a speaking part, and the other roles, except for Merlin, who does speak a little bit of words, and the fortune teller guy, he does have some interesting dialogue. But aside from that, most of the other people speaking, the other characters, they don't speak very much.
Can I go on now a bit?
Go on.
Now, that audio-visual presentation, the Magic Lantern he did. Now, this is interesting. He said that was called a place called Wuldakan. It's supposed to be, it's this town that died. The footage he used, it contained footage from an earlier George Power production.
Cool.
1961, Atlantis, the Lost Continent, as well as footage, some footage of flowing lava from the Time Machine. Stock footage of destruction.
I thought that lava looked familiar.
And also, and some from Quo Vadis, which was MGM's library of other movies. So they put all these little things in there to pad it out, make it look really good, save redoing it. Now, the crystal ball and the huge hourglass used by the Wicked Witch of the West in The Wizard of Oz can be seen in the film somewhere. I wasn't actually looking for it, but next time I have a look at the movie, I'll definitely have a look. But here's one Easter egg, as you keep referring to them as. In the scene in which Mike visits Lao at night, a two-headed tortoise can be seen. That would later appear in several episodes of The Addams Family.
Figures. I figured the familiar.
So things do move around. There was they considered doing a sequel, but it never actually materialised.
Yeah.
Now, reception. Yeah, I've only got two things. These are retrospective. Rotten Tomatoes, they liked it 83%. And a guy from New York Times said something, not quite sure what he's trying to say here. He said he called the film heavy, thick, pint-sized fantasy laid on with an anvil. Now, you don't lay anything on with an anvil. You put an anvil on the ground, you put something on it, and you beat the hell out of it with a hammer. So I don't know what he's trying to say.
I'm trying to figure out. I'm trying to figure that myself out.
Anyway, it made some very good, got some awards. William Tuttle received an honorary award, an Academy Award for his makeup work, and it was the first of only 2 honorary Oscars awarded for makeup. The other went to a guy called John Chambers in the 1968 film Planet of the Apes. Now, that was a lot of makeup, and they did look pretty good. Now, Tony Randall's head was shaved.
Oh.
Well, Dr. Lao didn't have any hair, right?
No.
He actually, it wasn't a skull cap. They shaved his head. But not only to play the bald Dr. Lao, but also to facilitate the many costume and makeup changes.
Wow,
that's what you call a dedicated actor, yeah.
Well, I imagine that's probably one of the reasons why Peter Sellers wanted to be paid extra, because that would mean you have to cut your hair off completely, and it might take you months or year to grow back. And and that's the express impression that in case it does grow back, there might be a chance it may not grow back.
Yeah, or end up like mine. Half grown back.
Well, that's the impression I get, Mike. I mean, whenever someone grows, gets a haircut, they may not even get all their hair back.
Anyway.
Especially no matter how old you are.
Anyway. We're going to grade it?
Yes, we might as well grade it now. So, I'm going to...
sorry, you first.
I was going to grade... I like the special effects. I loved the dedication from Tony Randall. I think... And I like that George put a lot of effort into this one. So,
he's a very talented producer.
Yeah,
and director.
Using whatever he had to make this film project work.
Now, it's a simple movie, isn't it?
Yes, it is a simple movie. And the fact that they used whatever was available inside the Hollywood studio, whatever's available to them that they can get away with. Like the Easter eggs, like you mentioned.
A few things in there. Let's get on proper. That'll do. Bung that in there.
Yeah, I mean, as long as it has something to do with circuses and you can get away with it, that's fine. Anyway, I'm going to rate this. I'm going to rate it 9.5 out of 10.
Well, that's pretty damn good then. Actually, I was going to give it a 9. But, 9.5. Yeah, not 9. I like it. It's a good family movie, but it's not made necessarily for kids.
Yeah.
If you don't want to actually have see blood and guts and gore, you're getting sick of watching a Michael Myers kill people or Jason Voorhees cutting somebody up for a hat and a machete and different things. It's a nice change for nice, pleasant evenings watching family. Old people can enjoy it. Young people can enjoy it. Mums and dads can enjoy it. Kiddies can even enjoy it, even though Sarah got grossed out a little bit when she was a kid.
Well, as I said before, it's not for everyone. And
no, it's a good, fun movie.
And from what you told me, you watched it when you were little, so you had a different impression about it.
10 or something or other, or 10, 11.
And my niece and nephew, they're always looking for something creepy to look at.
Want something creepy?
And I don't know if this will be something they'll be interested in watching.
I'm going to show it to them next time down.
But hopefully, maybe if we show them some creepy bits, they might take an interest.
I want to show them Night of Living Dead, Hellraiser.
You're going to show them Hellraiser.
Dead Silence, maybe, if the ventriloquist stuff. No, okay,
you
maybe
show them that, and they won't sleep for a week.
No.
You show them that, you'll be in trouble.
They'll never sleep again. How about Psycho? I saw that when I was 11.
Yeah, and you couldn't shower for a week.
I refused to ever have a shower again at that point in time. Anyway, now, where do you get it? Okay, it's probably on different streaming services and other places if you look for it. Mm-hmm. However, eBay has plenty for sale, new and used. Amazon, you can rent it. There is some for sale, but be careful, folks. Here we go again. Be careful of VHS copies and the possibility of Laserdisc seeing it's an old film. Okay, so have a look. Make sure you get the right product when you buy it. Okay. It is. I think it's a good movie to add to your collection if you like good old classics. So there you go. I can't say anything more, but it's a good family type movie. It won't insult anybody or horrify anybody. There's no blood and guts all over the place. There's no naked bodies all over the place. They're not doing drugs. There's no gratuitous violence. You're bloody boring, isn't it? No.
Yeah, well...
No. It's a good family, it's a good tasteful movie, has it?
Yeah. Well, some people would often find something to pick apart about it. I don't know.
No, look, it's basic insofar as the special effects because, gee, we didn't have CGI back in those days, did they? Maybe they might have done a little bit of blue screening occasionally, a bit of matte painting, and that's about as far as it went. So they were very creative with what they had. So, and you got to give them credit for that. And a guy called like George Powell can do something like this and then do a sci-fi and do some really seriously good sci-fis. The man's a talented man. So that's why we dragged this one out of the box to review, didn't we?
Yes, that's quite right. I thought we may have reviewed this already, guys, because we've often talked.
We talked about it, but we never do. See, there's so many movies we want to do, and we get.
Yeah.
See, I want to do some old things. I was talking to Sarah earlier on about. Some of you probably won't know this one. There's an old movie called San Francisco with Clark Gable in it. We may do that in the future. I want to show it to Sarah first. There's an earthquake, the great earthquake of whenever it was, and that was all manually done. moving platforms and stuff to make the ground come apart, and busted pipes and gas and fires and buildings falling down. And it was all done. None of it was digital back in those days. It was all, and we're going to have a set that's going to fall apart. Mm-hmm. You know, we're going to say, yeah. And they did a pretty damn good movie for special effects back in those days. Not a black and white job, but we may review it in the future. But I want to shout to Sarah first, see if she wants to do it purely on the merits of the special effects they used in that period. Yeah, but we might see what happens the next couple of weeks, maybe. Who knows?
Yeah. So that's the Seven Faces of Dr. Lao.
Oh.
And so I hope you guys enjoyed this review. And where can we find it? Have we discussed that?
I just did.
Oh, you did.
For those of you who weren't listening, there's plenty for sale on eBay. Remember that part I said? Okay. And new and used. Amazon, you can rent it, and there's some for sale. Be careful about, drum roll, VHS and Laserdisc. Yeah. There you go.
Luckily, this has no remake, which is good.
No, there isn't. You can't miss it. But I think there might be some posters and stuff for sale as well. So be careful what you click on. Yeah.
Be careful, guys. If you're going to buy a copy of this movie, you want to be careful.
You want to get the copy of the movie. Yeah. One that you can actually use.
Yes.
You can't fold up the poster and shove it in your DVD player.
No.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, so that's Some Faces of Dr. Lao. So be sure to check it out and let us know in the comments what you guys think of it, and let us know which of the 7 of Tony Randall's roles he was playing in, which one's your favourite of the creatures in it, obviously. So just let us know in the comments what you guys think. So this is Sarah Stephenson.
And Michael.
Saying see you guys around, and we'll see you guys next time on our next episode on Boys and Ghouls Film Review. Bye for now.
Bye, guys.